let's study about the adaptations which are there. Now, what is adaptation? First of all, adaptation is any attribute of an organism that can be a physiological, morphological, behavioral that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. So, any feature basically which is present in an organism for its survival, for its growth, for its reproduction, so that is the adaptation of that organism. The adaptation can be physiological, it can be external appearance, that is morphological, it can be behavioral, any kind of adaptation can be there. So the kangaroo rat which is there in North American desert, it is capable of meeting all its water requirements through its internal fat oxidation process. So it is having the water content proper in its body through this mechanism. It can also concentrate its urine so that minimum volume of water is used to remove the excretory product. So it can get back or concentrate the urine in a maximum form so that the water retention is done properly. Then the desert plants which are there, they minimize water loss through transpiration. By difference mean, what are those? Presence of thick cuticle on their leaf surfaces, arrangement of stomata in deep pits, and the presence of special pathway, that is the CAM cycle, the respiratory cycle, the CAM cycle, photosynthetic cycle, that enables their stomata to remain closed during the daytime. So because of this cycle that is present in the desert plants, it is able to minimize the water loss. Moreover, some desert plants like the opuntia, they have no leaves. Their leaves which are there, they are reduced to the spines form. And why spines have been formed? Because to avoid the water loss. And the photosynthetic function is taken over by the flattened stem. So since the leaves, they are converted into spines, and so where will the photosynthesis take place? So the stems, they have been transformed to do the photosynthesis. Adaptation in mammals in cold climates. So how do mammals adapt? Presence of shorter ears and limbs to minimize the heat loss. This is referred as Allen's rule. So what is Allen's rule? That the organisms, the mammals which are there in colder regions, they have shorter limbs, they have shorter ears, so that they can reduce the heat loss. Then it is the seal. Seal have thick layer of fat, that is referred as blubber, below their skin, that act as an insulator and reduces the loss of body heat. So in seals, how the body heat is restoring the heat which is there? By the presence of blubber, the fat which is present. Adaptations in human at high altitude. Because of low atmospheric pressure of high altitude, so as we go high in heights on the mountains and everywhere, there is low atmospheric pressure. So because of low atmospheric pressure, we are tend to face many problems like hypoxia and all. So human at high altitude experience altitude sickness. Now what is this altitude sickness? This is feeling of nausea, feeling of fatigue and heart palpitations. All these things occur because of inadequate oxygen that gets inside the body. Adaptation to this situation, how are the people who are, we have many people who are surviving over the high altitudes in Jammu Kashmir, over the mountains and everywhere. How are they adapted then? The body compensates low oxygen availability by increasing the red blood cell production. So we are getting less oxygen from outside, so we can definitely increase the RBCs so that more of the oxygen can be captured by the body. The increase in the binding efficiency of the hemoglobin and by increasing the breathing rate. So the hemoglobin content and the breathing rate is higher in people living in high altitudes. Adaptation in desert lizard. They exhibit behavioral response. What is those? They lack the physiological ability to deal with high temperature of their habitat. So how are they adapted? They bask in the sun and absorb the heat when their body temperature drops below the comfort zone. So they have a particular level of heat that is present in their body, and whenever that level is being dropped, then what happens? They are basking in the sun, taking all the heat. Move into the shade when the ambient temperature starts increasing. When the optimum temperature, whatever temperature they require, it is attained, then they start moving to the shade